I'm really glad to be here and to address some of these issues. I think that probably the best way to start, and this is a technical discussion, is it not?
Yes, it is.
I hope so, yeah.
To look at the background of how we discovered this, and then I think that you will automatically see where we came from and where we ended up going. It was quite some time ago, about 15 years ago, when I was director of the Florida Department of Citrus, and I had just come from Green Giant Company, and they hired me to actually put the research program on a commercial track. So I started looking around for research that could promote grapefruit. It was just really simple. I had a colleague that said to me, you know, every time that stupid grapefruit diet shows up in the press, which is every 5 years, grapefruit sales really do take off. So I had the idea that we would do a study, a research study that either proved this or disproved it. I had a lot of resistance because what if it disproved it? That would be disastrous. But you know, I'm a scientist first. So I talked the powers that be into doing a study to prove or not if grapefruit had any effect on weight loss. At that time, there was a grapefruit grower family, the Thompsons, who I started interacting with, and they were big grapefruit suppliers. They were very much wanting to promote grapefruit. In fact, they had taken grapefruit and had dehydrated it so that you could take grapefruit in a pill. A couple of pills equaled a full serving of grapefruit. So this family was promoting grapefruit, and they thought it was grapefruit was so healthy, but a lot of people weren't eating it just because they don't like the flavor. They got the idea of dehydrating grapefruit down into a couple of capsules for a serving, and they were calling it the grapefruit solution. And it was just like the concept of garlic, if you've heard about that. You know, Larry King advertised this very often. It was dehydrated garlic in a capsule, so you could take it and get the health benefits of garlic, but you didn't maybe want to eat garlic, right? So this was the idea. They had developed a grapefruit powder. It was perfect for me because as a scientist, that allowed me to run some placebos. So I put together a grapefruit juice, serving of grapefruit, and dehydrated grapefruit powder in a capsule. And then, at least for the grapefruit juice and the capsule, I could do a placebo. Of course, I could not do a placebo for a fresh grapefruit serving, but for the drink and for the capsule, I was able to do a placebo. In the capsule was just some cellulose. And in the drink, we made up a drink. Tropicana helped me with this. We made up a drink that had the same amount of sugar and the same amount of water and nothing else. Furthermore, we had this study done at Scripps Institute in California so that there would not be anyone claiming that, you know, Florida citrus, Florida research. So we had this shipped out to California. We actually shipped them grapefruit juice, the powder, and the placebos. And it was a double-blind study. And after 3 months, there was weight loss, significant weight loss. This is a scientifically published paper by Ken Fujioka of the Scripps Institute. Anybody can go online to NCMBI or PubMed.com and type in grapefruit and Fujioka, and that study will come up. There was a significant amount of weight loss. But what was more interesting to me, because I'm a trained physiologist, is that there was an insulin response. Something was going on physiologically. It wasn't just that people were having satiety, which means being full and therefore not eating. These people did nothing different. They just included a serving of grapefruit in their dinner time. It could be we had the grapefruit serving fresh, or we had grapefruit juice, or we had this capsule, and of course we had the placebos. So a double-blind study, I mean, and even done in another state by one of the world's premier research institutions, there was something going on. I went back to the authorities at the Florida Department of Citrus. I was just the research leader, so I wasn't in charge. And I said, we need to find out about what's going on. You have a product to sell, grapefruit, and you need to understand everything negative and positive about your product. And they just were not interested. They said, oh, we got the results of the study. That's good enough for us. And I'll cut ahead a couple of months. I was just so intrigued that myself and that grapefruit person, the Thompsons, his name is Daryl Thompson, who had the grapefruit powder, we decided to find out ourselves what was going on. I was just really intrigued, and I knew if I could come up with the where and what and why, there could be some commercial possibilities here. So over the next several years, the next 5 years, we did a research on our own. And what we did is we looked at what are the possibilities in grapefruit that could cause something. So we started doing things that every researcher does. We did a literature review. And we found out that there were several polyphenolics in citrus that had been linked to weight loss. Well, this got us pretty excited. And we said, it's probably naringin. Naringin is a polyphenolic. It's a flavonoid, the most prevalent one in grapefruit. And it is responsible for the bitter flavor in grapefruit. So we said, we could probably take this flavonoid in grapefruit and put it in something like a brownie. And you might actually be able to lose weight by eating a brownie. That sounded really silly. At the same time, my partner then, Daryl Thompson, his mother was a diabetic. And we just got the idea, it's friends and family first. We could go so far as to make a brownie safe for a diabetic. And that's really how this whole research started. We were just trying to figure out what it was in grapefruit that was causing this weight loss. And because of my partner's mother, we might be able to put this flavonoid in a brownie and make a brownie as safe for her as drinking grapefruit juice. So we did our first experiment on humans was a disaster. To get enough of this naringin, the bitter component of grapefruit, into a brownie, it was hard. It tasted like alum. It was terrible. So we had to abandon that. But this was really one of the best things that ever happened to us from a physiologist's point of view, because we started to look elsewhere. And we started to say, well, why is that flavonoid in grapefruit to begin with? Why should there be something in grapefruit that causes us weight loss? We didn't quite understand it. And this is where we started our real intense investigation. We built our own program. We developed our own algorithm. And we used the Brenda research database at the Brandeis University enzymatic database. This is the database that every scientist that works on an enzyme contributes the data to, so that we scientists know as much as possible about every enzyme on the planet. It's called Brenda, but it resides in Germany. But if you do research on an enzyme, you freely contribute that to this database. So we knew there's hundreds of thousands, millions of enzymes in this database. And we know all their characteristics. And then we built an algorithm that would allow these enzymes, using its known characteristics, to dock with critical control points in carbohydrate metabolism. So we didn't discover the control points of carbohydrate metabolism. They're very well known. You know, you have starch, carbohydrate, or cellulose even, but you cellulose, starch, glucose, fructose, etc. All these sugars, simple and complex, they go through a digestive process in your body. It's carbohydrate metabolism. It starts out, the most simple one is the conversion of the simple starches into glucose. That happens, as you know, in your mouth. Your saliva contains amylase. The next step is an absorption into your bloodstream. You don't need to break down the starch any more simple than glucose. I mean, that's the basic molecule of carbohydrates, glucose, sugar, glucose or fructose, or the other oses, which is mannose, lactose, etc. The starch is just pure glucose. Cellulose is just pure glucose. It's just a matter of how the molecules are hooked together. The next step after you've broken into glucose is the absorption from your gut into the bloodstream. It's very well known how that happens. It's glucose transporter 2, GLUT2 we call it. Now there's a lot of steps in that one simple transport. It's not a simple single doorway from your gut into the bloodstream. There's several subunits that are involved. But for discussion, that's the next control point, absorption from the gut into your bloodstream. Once the sugar is in your bloodstream, it's got 2 places to go, 3 places. It can keep on circulating in your bloodstream, resulting in high sugar load in your blood, high glucose, or it can go into fat tissue, or it can go into various cells to serve as energy source, primarily muscle and brain tissue. That doorway is glucose transporter 4. These are all very well described already. This is basic 101 physiology. So the isles of Langerhans in the pancreas produce insulin. Another step in carbohydrate metabolism is actually the effectiveness of insulin, or the how efficacious insulin is in the body. If it's not very efficacious, we call it insulin resistance. Another point in carbohydrate metabolism is that your body actually produces its own sugar. If it doesn't get enough, it will make its own sugar. So that's gluconeogenesis, the production of new sugar out of non-sugar molecules. They're actually C3 molecules, 3 carbon units. They end up being a C6, which is glucose. And then there's also the production of adipose tissue, fat cells. So those together are the 7 major steps in carbohydrate metabolism. I mean, there's actually another 12, but those are the main steps, 7 steps in carbohydrate metabolism.